Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days. How you feeling? Sounding a little bit better.
I hear it's important for me to say I've never felt better. Never better, Justin. Never better.
Man, that's impressive. You're just always never better.
Yeah.
226. Sixth Forever Exiled. Thanks for hanging out and listening, everybody. Patrons, we love your faces. Thank you so much for your support. Big shout out to Ayler for joining up this past week and everybody else who resubbed up. We love your faces. Thank you so much. Patreon gets you access to After Dark. It's our podcast after the podcast, and it's just more us. So thanks.
Who wants anything other than that? I can't think of anything anyone else would want for their birthday except for more us.
You'd be never better.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, we were coming out of a cake.
Ooh, coming out of a cake.
What was that? What was that movie?
Yeah, like a 80s or 90s movie.
Yeah, he's on a ship.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Steven Seagal.
Yeah,
I think it was Sharon Stone. Happy birthday, Mr. President. She comes out at the wrong time. Yeah, we could do that.
We can pull it off for
it's
sure.
It's a patron perk, people. It'll be a patron perk.
That's right.
Coming up.
Yep.
We'll do that after we give away the car we promised in episode 1.
Yep, it's coming one day. We actually did try, but more on that later.
We did, actually. We did.
More on that later.
I want to shout Justin out because I've had horrible voice stuff for, a bit. What is this, like week 5, I think, maybe, of crappy voice. And here you go.
You just get that one.
And even this episode, the more I talk, the more I'll cough. But he's been very kind. It hasn't been like any eye rolling or like being frustrated with all the editing work I've been giving him with all the coughing and
I think I catch most of them.
Snorting and stuff.
Hopefully I catch most of them.
You do. And you do a fantastic job, but you've had an awesome attitude throughout it all. And I've been giving you more work. So thank you. I appreciate it.
It's fun, Ty. It's fun. How's your week?
My week? Good. Everyone except for me has been healthy and I've been getting better. I'm just caught in this never ending circle of post-surgery vulnerability. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. My body's still, I don't know what it is. Like, I still feel like I'm post-op, like the next day, like my body's tired. Exhausted. Or like, like when you have a fever and you're sick and you're really run down. Like just the idea of getting up to get a drink feels like no, you know what? I'd rather die on the couch. I have that kind of energy level, that really low. So, but I don't feel sick. It's just like I know I sound sick, but that's just where my throat's at. Like I don't feel sick. I'm not anything. It's just I cough because my throat's sore and my throat's sore because I cough. There's no I can't feel an illness. But anyway, I feel the energy levels like I have a crazy illness. So the house is a little bit more messy than I want it to be. And, the chores have been piling up. But I see the ENT next week. My official, hopefully last.
The actual one,
yeah. The ENT that did the surgery on my face. So hopefully that goes smooth. So it's my last one and I can stop the dumb nasal rinses.
Cool.
And and then hopefully my voice comes back to normal and my coughing stops just in time for the spring illnesses to come from school, right? Spring break comes by, people go overseas or do their trips, come back, and then the whole school gets sick again just after spring break. So I got to get healthy so I can get sick again for that.
Yeah. Just a little period of health.
That's right. Yeah. Well, anyway, so how about you? How have you been this week?
My week was...
Oh, actually, one other cool thing happened this week. You know how we're concerned about leaking and stuff in our house? Yeah. And we were having a leak through the frame of the front door because the exterior of the door wasn't made properly. The previous owners, do-it-yourselfers, set it up as an indoor door, not an outdoor door, so the water wasn't pooling away properly. And we were able to deal with that with like short-term stuff relatively often and quickly, but it got to be too much. The frame would soak through with all the atmospheric rivers that are now normal for our area as opposed to once every 100 years. It was just leaking too much. So we had the whole frame and door and everything, the whole entryway replaced.
That was done this week?
That happened this week. Okay, cool. Yeah, it just happened the last 2 days. And luckily I like the contractor, but his door people that he has, I would never use them again. Like if we need, honestly, we need our garage door stuff fixed. So in 100 years, when we can afford to get our garage replaced, I'm going to ask that I pray that that same company doesn't do garage doors, that he uses someone else for that. Because
wasn't great.
No, it wasn't. So anyway, that's done and it's nice. And now it's just this little thing of Does my wife get to choose the door color, or do I?
I'm going to go with her.
Yes, it will be, but my color's way better.
What would your color be?
Obviously, it would be like the hottest pink. Oh, you betcha it would be pink.
All right. I think Aaron should pick.
She will. She'll pick it to be the same color that it was. A boring blue that's so boring people think it's gray.
What are you drinking? The tea or something? Coffee? It's very
nope, it's a bourbon.
It looks bourbonish.
It is. I bought last night at like, I don't know. I was like, we'll get into it, but I was watching the GGG interviews. I'm like, screw it. Like, screw Netflix, screw Crave, screw everything. Like, I really got to finish all these crazy interviews that everybody's doing with GGG and Jonathan and whoever he has with them. And I'm like, I'm falling way too behind. So this week I watched like no TV. All I did was catch up on 9 hours of interviews. And I only had a couple more hours to go last night. And I finished them all. I'm all up to date. We'll talk about that later. But I'm like...
You finished all of them? Wow, good for you.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what it was, but I had an itch for some chips. And the only chips that are... the only store that's guaranteed to have the chips that I can eat, like, you know, unhealthy chips, but chips that I can have are Reba chips with no milk, very little sugar, made from corn, not potato. They're sold at the liquor store.
You can buy them and save on this.
Well, yeah, but Save-On's for rich people. I don't have that kind of money.
So you go to the liquor store.
I do, yeah. I save 50 cents by going to the liquor store. They're $4.99 instead of $5.54. So, you know, I'm thrifty. So anyway, I go down and I'm like, Aaron, I'm going to the liquor store to buy some chips. She's like, yeah, right. And I'm like, I am. What do you want me to top up on? Is there anything you want? And so she's like, you know, gives me her order.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I'm like, there's a $35 thing of bourbon here and everything else is way more expensive. It probably sucks.
Which one was it?
$35. Wild Turkey.
Oh, Wild Turkey's all right.
It's fine. Yeah. It's really weak. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm drinking iced tea with a little bit of a slap.
I've used it for mixes, like for the odd mix.
That's definitely. Yeah, it's weak. It doesn't have a punch. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, screw it. Let's see what it tastes like for $35. Because the other stuff that Aaron likes called Maker's Mark, that's around $10 more. Yep. So I'm like, screw it. And then when I went upstairs to get my water, because when we were starting recording, I'm like, I forgot my water. And I see it there on the counter. And I'm like,
yeah, that'll do.
Screw it. Whatever, man. Who cares?
That's
Didn't even look at the clock because I think that stuff's stupid. So anyway, I don't drink, but I'm drinking.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay, so Justin, how was your week?
My week was good. It was good. It was busy. I played a little bit of Path of Exile. I also played a game called Enshrouded. It was a early access game.
It's begun. The second you start playing other games, your league is done.
Well, you know what's funny? I came back and played Path of Exile this week after playing Enshrouded. And I think Enshrouded is actually incredible. It's a very, very well made early access game. It's like a survival style RPG type game. Very open world, like huge world. And it's only in early access. I think it's only got like a third of the world released or something, but very good. It was actually a really cool game. Obviously there's some things that need to be worked out, but I had a lot of fun playing it. I just needed something different. I was getting a little bit tired of like the rolling of maps and the, you know, figuring stuff out for playing the build, and I just needed a break. So I played Enshrouded for a bit this week. Lots of fun. Came back and played Path of Exile, and then it was just a lot of work. We finished Reacher. We were watching Reacher.
Is that any good?
Yeah.
I've heard that I would like it, but it's like Punisher. I haven't
like the
right. I remember. Oh, say you said that last week. I remember that. No.
Yeah. So yeah, I did like it. It was good. There's only 2 seasons of it. So
is the story good though, or is it just cool judgment?
The story's not bad. It's actually not bad.
Okay.
I think there's a 3rd season coming soon, but it's just a fun, like, just chill out on the couch and relax or whatever. What else did I do this week? I obviously read a lot about Hamilton going to Ferrari. That was a crazy one.
Wasn't that cool? Isn't it weird that a rumor we heard ahead of time actually came true?
Yeah.
Like for those that don't follow Formula One, like
there's a lot of rumors.
The rumors are stupid. It's nonstop. Like, yes, it's a short off season, but the rumors that go, like, it's weird. That media group is just, they're so desperate to write something about Formula One in the off season that the articles are just garbage. And there's like nothing. It's so like, it's insane clickbait, insane, brutal clickbait. And then all of a sudden we hear Hamilton's going to Ferrari and we're like, sure. And then Ferrari tweets it that Hamilton's going to Ferrari, not this year, but next year. And then the world just explodes.
Yeah, that was crazy. I have to say, so like besides that, which I think is nuts, I think it's going to be a very weird, I don't like the fact that they announced stuff like this an entire year ahead of time. I would rather hear this news halfway through next season. It's just so weird to know that he's driving for a team, Science is driving for a team, that they're both going to be leaving for an entire year. Like it's different when it's halfway through the season. Even that I've always found odd. Like to find out halfway through a season, I've always found, but this is like way past bizarre to know it for the entire year you're racing for a team that you're leaving.
It is odd because you're just part of all the research and development, and it's Lewis Hamilton. Right. It's not like it's not the other way around where it's someone like Carlos Sainz or George Russell where you don't have to share everything. Like Lewis is tied for Schumacher for world championships. Yeah. He's easily one of the wisest racers that's ever raced, and to like not
like the team just has to not talk to him for like the last half of the year. It's so weird.
But you're foolish to not inquire with him,
right? Because he's going to help your car.
Like, right? Yeah. Because like when teams have Alonso, they're not just looking for like they run everything past him because they just want that experience with their decision making. And you have Hamilton for one more year still. I agree. It's so weird that that's how the sport works. Like you're allowed to sign contracts while you're still within another contract. Like he's got one more year with Mercedes before he goes to Ferrari.
So I think here's my tinfoil hat theory. So I don't know if it was leaked and that's why they announced it, or if they always had plans to announce it at the beginning of the like before the season started. But here's my theory. Sure. Formula One knows that this is going to happen and Formula One leaks it. And here's why Formula One leaks it. Because the story that came out 4 days before this was announced made Formula One look like trash, which is they're not allowing Andretti and Cadillac into F1. Like I think that is one of the stupidest, dumbest decisions. And it irritates the crap out of me that you let teams decide who gets to come into Formula One. I think that's so silly. And the fact that you don't think Andretti and Cadillac have enough clout to join F1 is one of the, I just think it's stupid. So my theory is they leaked it so that people would be, you don't even hear anything about the fact that Formula One said no to Andretti and all their money. Yeah. So,
and this is probably going to be the most boring season. Like no drivers are changing. There's going to be very little difference in the pecking order. Right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's much change with the car, especially this year to next year, because you're not seeing the big changes till 26. So
who's really going to be going for the championship, like pouring all that money in when you could save? Now, they're not allowed working on 2026 officially,
right?
But this is the year where you're like,
they're definitely
okay, this part of the aerodynamics of our current vehicle isn't going to change for what we're doing for next year, right? For the new season. So let's test all these changes that we are going to hopefully apply to our new car on this one. So who knows? Yeah. But on the Cadillac thing, we could talk about that in After Dark. FIA, I don't disagree with either side. I think it would have been wise to include them, and I see the wisdom in excluding them based on what Formula One did. But apparently FIA is looking into why, like the details to
I hope they
why
do.
Formula One rejected
because
it.
I don't like the idea that they're like, well, we're keeping the door open, and once they start producing power units, then we'll talk again. I just feel like there's always that thing like, you got to do this first and then we'll reconsider it. Oh, you got to do this first and then we'll reconsider it. It's like, it's not some Joe Schmo that just wants to join Formula One. That's some billionaire kid, another Stroll that's just got money. I just seems so funny to me that you're not letting one of the biggest names in race and a big name in the, car manufacturing to it just seems so bizarre. So anyway, good job Formula One though to leak the Hamilton thing, because that definitely
there's Justin's tinfoil hat.
Yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, no, otherwise, you know what? It was a good week. I just did work and played games, watched some TV.
Stuff and things. Yep. Cool.
Let's get
I'm excited to get lawn stuff going.
Oh, I had a talk
I'm at that
today.
stage. Did you?
With my lawn guy, because I was figuring out what our plan was going to be as we move towards the spring. And so I was talking to him about what are we going to do with this current state of my front lawn. So
yeah, it's awkward because we're at the beginning of February. We could have more frosty weather coming, but if we don't, you could get a whole month head start on growth because we're averaging 10 degrees during the day.
Yep. The soil's still a little bit cold, but for me, I have to like tear it all up. We're going to have to then treat it. Then we're going to have to seed it. So like, let's chop.
Yeah. If you could tell the future and you weren't going to get any more like too much below zero weather at night, now is perfect for you.
Yeah. So we'll see what goes on. We're getting close to more lawn talk though. That'll be nice.
Yeah, it's going to be great. My lawn needs a lot of work thanks to this weird off season. This week in PoE was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I looked through your list.
Talent competition.
Yeah, did we have
highlights.
2 people from our Discord in here? I saw.
I'm. Go ahead.
I just saw the wallet from Manway. I think is what
Manway,
they use on Discord.
And I love that the pictures of part of the process was included and the measurements.
It's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. So congrats, Manway. And if there are other listeners that maybe whose names we didn't recognize through the
Tell
list,
us on Discord.
Yeah, definitely. And congratulations to everybody that's on there. But awesome job, Manway. That's pretty wicked. There was another one there, one by Caladriel. That was the guitar cover, but with the singing, and they really cool. Really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, very nice job.
And obviously they're all great. Build of the week, pretty neat. I love Blade Blast. I love trigger builds. So I love seeing how that kind of stuff works. So awesome job there by Premave or Premava. But there was an interesting little tidbit in there. Soja brought it up to me. And
in where?
In the build of the week.
Okay.
In the build of the week, Eben hinted that controller support will have some sort of instant skill functionality different from what it currently is.
When? Like in PoE 2 or?
No, like coming up, like maybe in the next patch or like next league.
Oh.
So it's interesting to me though, because I'm trying to think like the value of an instant skill on PC is you can put it to left click and you just naturally click it. It's like you're not clicking it to make it work.
What's it going to be on like directional?
Always,
how does that work?
Well, but that's kind of the thing, right? So on PC, it makes sense. You have your move button as your instant click, as your instant skill. And that just means quote unquote, it's always on. But on console, I'm moving with an analog stick. Now, currently, I'm using an Xbox controller X, which is on, those face buttons. That's the one on the left. I just hold that down as my instant skill. And then my one active skill will be either Y, which is the top button. And I'm thinking like, now they've been extremely creative with how they've allocated buttons and done things with controller support. I've been very impressed with how they've added the complexity of Path of Exile to the controller. But for them to say the instant skill functionality will be different in the near future, I'm like, what? How?
Maybe there will be a way to assign it to like when you're moving or something, or when you're holding a direction, or because that is the same as left click essentially. Right. If you could have an instant skill on when you are holding in any direction, that's essentially exactly the same as left click, holding down left click. So, I mean, that'd be cool if they did though. Because that is definitely one lacking thing on controller support for sure.
Yeah. I definitely hope it's not pushing down on the left analog stick.
It can't be. That would be terrible.
It would. Pushing down the left analog stick already does something else anyway, but it would. I don't like that that's a button I accidentally always push. Now, yes, with an instant skill, I do accidentally always want it on, but I just don't want that to open any doors for further gameplay possibilities. Like pushing down on analog sticks is something like when old shooter games that I used to play before my symptoms got bad, pushing down on the right analog stick to zoom on a shooter was the worst.
Yeah, especially when you got 2 freaking clickers right here in your fingers.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah. So
it would be cool for them to do something just if you're moving, if your character's moving, you're assigning a skill to that. Yeah. I think that'd be very cool and would make sense.
Totes, totes. Let's see. This one's awesome. The Ancestor MTX, the mystery box, the bundles. Yeah, those are in the store now.
Nice. Was there any in there that you wanted?
Yeah, the map device that counts how long the times how long you've been. Yeah, it's close to $30 American.
Might go on sale though.
Yeah, so I do really want it, but the difference of that, like $5
Sure.
of what it would be on sale would pay for the difference for me between the American Canadian and Canadian dollar. So I am going to wait for it to be on sale, but I'm really excited about it.
Nice.
And it'll be the first MTX that I buy that I have the choice of variation. I haven't purchased a variation MTX yet.
Does that one have variations? I've not even noticed on mine.
Yeah, it's just like different colors of what the clock is, like yellow or blue.
Oh, but you have to pick which one you buy, right? Like you can't. So okay, right.
I have variation MTX, but I've earned those through, hey, you bought a Weta, here's a mystery box, which is currently going on as well right now for this weekend. But by the time you hear this, it's almost too late, listeners.
What's the deal that's going on right now?
Oh, just buy anything. Like it's a weekend pet sale, but spend something in the store and you get a mystery box.
Okay, cool.
And I actually meant to do that before the podcast, but real life caught up to me and I didn't have the time. I want to see what I would get because there's a lot in this mystery box one.
We can do it before After Dark, and then I'll do it too.
Sure.
I'll buy a Weta.
Sure. There's but it was kind of funny. Like I went to go see, so I'm like, oh, right, the pet sale. So I set a reminder for myself because me and pets, right? Anything under a certain dollar value, I'm going to pick up. And I'm like, all right, cool. So let's see what the Affliction mystery box is. I totally forget. They don't have a link for it. So they have an announcement about the hideout and pet sale, and they say, hey, you'll get a free. Oh, never mind. No, that's right. Never mind. That's not it. So there's a link to the sales. There's a link to
what's in the
direct
Affliction
purchase
mystery
of
box.
the mystery box.
There's a video for what's in the Affliction mystery box.
Right. So you have to click on the video, but I don't want to watch a video. I just want to see a quick list.
Of all the
so I click on the YouTube link. Then I got to go into the description of the YouTube link, and there they have the link that takes me to
the list of all the things. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is.
And so I have to it was funny. Just an oversight, but one that if you or I were making the announcement, you'd be like, crap.
Yeah, why not add it?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a ton of really cool things in this mystery box. So this will be another one where I can't wait for this to go core next league because they have all the entrance ways for the different. Now, that being said, Jonathan's mentioned multiple times in the different interviews that he's been doing that this is PoE 2 launch year.
Apparently
he's referenced 2024 as this is launch year. Mm-hmm. So if it gets pushed to January, he's probably not expecting a longer beta than he's already planned for. Maybe he means beta
when he says launch year, though.
Maybe, but still, we're still getting close to the PoE 2 thing. So I'm like, do I actually want to spend $50 on PoE 1 hideout stuff when I'm the type of player I'm uninstalling Path of Exile 1.
But that doesn't mean you lose the things you purchased. That all comes over to PoE 2.
Oh, that's true.
Right? So it's not like you're losing out on anything.
But I don't know what's getting carried over. I assume everything is, but there's the bestiary, delve, and labyrinth entrances to just go straight from your hideout without needing to go to your waypoint. I liked that. Mm-hmm. There was the currency orb pets. There was the portal effects of that massive toad with a huge mouth that you walk into.
Yeah.
There's the ring that shows you how much currency you've earned for an entire league. There's a lot of really cool things in this one. So, and I mean, really cool pets and a whole bunch of other things. Mm-hmm. So it's a very unique one. So I'm like, oh man.
Let's do it before After Dark and we'll chat about what we got.
All right. Oh man. I hope I actually get something I like. This is the first one in a long time where there's actually been a lot that I want.
You're going to get something stupid.
I am. I'm going to get footprints.
Yep.
Which I never use. I always never put footprints on because, well, no, you can never see them, but the screen clutter is such a big deal for me that I'll put on as little as possible.
Yeah.
So anyway, Xbox got the 0.1 patch the second we released the last week's episode. Of
course.
So that's nice. Console's on 1B now, and PC is on patch 1B. Yep. Console's on 0.1. But that was exciting for console players because now all their purchase stash tabs actually work.
Right. That's good.
The gem and flask ones have been an issue for about 4 months, so I'm glad that's done. There was the Ziz and Jonathan and Rishi interview this past. It was earlier in the week. It was Monday or something for us, but it was cool. There. So
love Rishi.
But I finished that, and I'm all done. I'm all caught up.
Oh yeah, nice.
Everything Path of Exile 2 Jonathan related. I'm done.
Sweet.
So we can talk about that as much or as little as you want. Mm-hmm. And also Ziz's Gauntlet started.
Today,
Ziz's Gauntlet started. I was going to do that.
You still got time. It runs for 10 days. I think it started today. February.
It starts today. Oh, no, it starts in an hour and a half.
Starts
cool.
1 p.m. on February 2nd.
So I just got to get past breaking the eggs, and that's my thing. Then I basically pass the game, and I expect gifts and praise galore. I want a trophy.
You should get a trophy. I will not be trying it, but good for you.
I haven't gone back to the trophy lady that I used for all the fantasy league stuff that we have since COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't go during COVID to get all the fantasy trophies that I do, but I haven't gone back.
Well, that's cool.
So anyway, that's that.
That's this week in PoE.
Busy week. It was a good week. It wasn't a busy week in PoE land, but for us, that was, that's a lot of lettuce, Just.
It's a lot of lettuce. We have some fun news coming up. We're going to be chatting actually with GGG coming up. Patrons that have a specific level, you can find that in Discord to find out who. Just keep it to yourself if you don't mind. But yeah, we are going to be chatting with GGG. So, if people want to throw out ideas on Discord, we're open to hearing what people want to know. We're not big. Oh, I'm not. I don't know how to talk about PoE 2 besides when is it coming? When can I play it?
It's an individual. We're talking to someone. It's an interview about them. It's not an interview about Path of Exile, Path of Exile 1.
We'll be talking about Path of
some
Exile.
Information might come up, but we're talking about them and what they like and how they got to work at the company and who their least favorite employee is and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're excited to chat with them. So that's going to be coming up in the near future. Did you play this week? Oh, hold on. One more thing. Our private league starts. If you haven't joined up yet, make sure you hop on Discord. That starts in 2 weeks as of us recording this, but in a week and 5 days as of when this comes out. So
yeah, February 16th PST
at 10:01 a.m. PST.
Yeah.
So if you want to play in our private league, you can hop on Discord. The information's under announcements. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sorry, you played? What'd you do?
No, I didn't because I wanted to. I actually had the itch to. I probably played at the beginning of the week. I remember playing. I still am classic Tyler dilemma. I cannot decide between Reaper, the lower damage of the Reaper, but the stress-free play style of not having support minions versus hating how support minions work, caring about having to double check to make sure they're alive after a stupid encounter where this enemy and this enemy had a crazy combo of mods. And it's if my zombies die, that my other stuff's in dangers too, right? And specters, I hate how specters work, and I hate having to deal. And again, I know they're changing for PoE 2, and I talked last week about hating to babysit Guardian's Blessing, even though I think it's perfectly designed. That's just stuff to double check, and I don't want to do that in the game. So as soon as I see my zombie health really low, or I see that my zombie limit is -1, I'm crap. So the zombie build does way more damage, which is something you'll probably never hear anybody else say. But my zombie build does way more damage, but the Reaper play style is so much more stress-free. Technically, the zombie build does more damage on paper, but the Reaper with its combination of skills still does more damage than it says on paper because it's bouncing between all the different skills that it has. But anyway, long story short, or to summarize, the play session I had earlier in the week was me going, I can't decide between, and bouncing between my Reaper and zombie build to see if, I could come up with a short-term preference for them. But besides that, all my PoE time this week was catching up on all of Jonathan's interviews with streamers. I didn't make any notes. Because I know, at first, I was making notes with everything I heard on Reddit, because Jonathan was very active on PoE 2's Reddit. Sorry, my voice is cutting out.
PoE 2 Reddit.
PoE 2's Reddit, yeah. And he hasn't been that active now, but he still emphasized, I'm still looking through it, and I plan to be just as active as before, but things have been busy. But so originally I made notes in our podcast notes here for everything that I was discovering about Path of Exile 2 from Jonathan on Reddit. But obviously I didn't know what the future held. And so now all of a sudden he's had 5 interviews with streamers on YouTube. I'm not going to make notes on that. That's just nonstop boatloads of information. But to summarize for you, without any notes or telling you specifics, you'll be very happy with the mentality they have going into Path of Exile 2. They're willing to change everything and anything. Everything from trade to the loot system, everything they've been looking at and are willing to change, admitting that even something that they said 3 weeks ago, like I remember hearing people that are up to date on the interviews and heard them live or listened to them the day later or something, where they're starting to fall into line with you. Like, man, they're like changing their mind so much. I'm starting to fall into Justin's camp where, you know what, just don't tell me anything until like you don't have time to change your mind and this is the way things are going to be. But the encouraging thing with that is they've, for example, changed their mind on how trade works in PoE 1. In a previous interviews, they said trade is going to be exactly the same way. And now recently they said, we are completely open to changing everything on how trade works. We just have to make sure how it works. So the point is, I think you're going to be very happy with the end result because they haven't been a stick in the mud about anything and they've been willing to change stuff. Now, whether we like the end result or not, I don't know, because that's just a personal preference thing. And there's always going to be things that fans like and don't like based on what a developer says, but they've at least considered it. And I think that's something that you'll really appreciate once you see the final product. That's my summary for you.
I think I mentioned to somebody somewhere, I don't remember where, that I am excited for PoE 2. I'm not, whatever I'm saying isn't meant to come across as like, I don't want to play it. I'm very pumped to play PoE 2. I just want to play PoE 2. I don't really want to hear about it. Somebody did bring up, maybe, I don't remember where I saw it. Maybe it was in Discord or somewhere. With regards to this idea of an auction house or some sort of trading type thing through PoE 2. And it was talked about, which again, I also don't care. Do whatever works best for you. I thought it was a little odd that when you talk about them being willing to change whatever, I do like that. And I think they should do whatever they think is best. I think the idea of the trade in the auction house is a little weirdly timed, and it probably became a part of the conversation. I assume that was during the Ziz. Maybe the Ziz one.
That's where that information came to light, that they were considering other avenues than the traditional avenue.
Yeah, I'm curious if their answer would have been the same 2 or 3 weeks ago if somebody had asked them. And the only reason I asked that is because there was so much drama in the last week and a half, 2 weeks regarding trade, regarding TFT Discord, regarding all this different stuff on Reddit, because I did pay attention to it over the past couple of weeks, just out of curiosity. And I don't really understand all of it. I don't do the TFT thing. I'm not into the bulk trading, but I do know a lot of people do use it, more serious people that want to do like bulk trading. And there's a whole bunch of drama around it and the fact that trade is a little bit broken, and, you know, people hoping that they would address it in some regard. But then I also thought it was a little odd that I saw people on Reddit posting about demanding an answer from GGG and that they need to tell us what's happening. And I was thinking, like, this is a third party. Like, there's only so much that they can do, but then to have them say, yeah, we're open to talking about trade and we're thinking of doing something different. I was like, what were you though? Like, that's what makes me nervous. And that's why I tend to go like, I'd just rather not hear, because I'm curious if 2 or 3 weeks ago, if somebody had asked them before all that, if their answer would have also been, yeah, we're looking at doing trade differently. Right. So, and maybe it would have, but that's for me why it's just better to not hear, to just chill. Sure. I'm going to play PoE 2 when the beta's out. I can't wait for it. But right now I feel like a lot of it is like, well, we could do that. Yeah, that's an option. And it's like, but that's a cool thing to have heard in like 2019 when they first announced PoE 2. At this point in time, I just want to get about it. Yeah. I just want to get to it. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because the thing, like, I don't think users should have as much voting. I mean, it's unofficial voting power, but I don't think Path of Exile players should have as much voting power as they do. I think, not in terms of attitude, because every user is different, but so forgive me with the term, but I'm just going to do this so that I don't ramble enough to explain myself. We're kind of spoiled brats when it comes to how we really are listened to by the developers. Mm-hmm. Like, we really are accommodated. We're really listened to. And I can think of many examples in my Path of Exile history where GGG really wanted to do something and they chose to do what we wanted instead. And
I just died mid-sentence.
I got it. Hurled into the microphone. That cough came out of nowhere.
Never hear it.
Okay, I really didn't want to put a lozenge in my mouth while I'm drinking bourbon, but I need to, man. I can't handle this. So, but anyway, no, like, I think we've been over accommodated. I think some of us expect to be listened to, and you just need a reality check to kind of change that attitude. We shouldn't have to be listened to. It's wise to be listened to, but not obeyed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Considered. Yes. Yeah, right. Sure. That's like, no matter what you believe in or where you come from, where your foundation is, wisdom in a general sense for everybody is being open-minded, considering even the craziest concepts or whatever, but then coming out with your own conclusion because you were open-minded. Wisdom is never being narrow-minded. But one thing that I'm impressed with GGG is that they're willing to change. And things that they have very previously been stuck in the mud about, even if it's something that they're still going to continue, the reasoning that they have behind it is really well explained. And they've explained that they have considered it, and this is why it didn't work out, or this is why it did, and this is why they're going in that direction. And yes, like, you know, there's again nothing final about it, but they are considering it. I do, though, wish and hope that Path of Exile 2 is the game they want the game to be, not the game we want it to be, because we're just users. Like, we get used to it, and that's the way it is. Like, I remember when Elden Ring was announced, the new IP for after Dark Souls 3, and, you know, you can have your opinions about which Dark Souls is the best Dark Souls, but I'm looking forward to Elden Ring.
2.
What?
2.
Oh, I really like Dark Souls 2, man. Yeah. That was like the most brutal health bar. It was like a really slow refresh rate. You had like, you know, every time you died, your max health got lowered, but then they had wonky builds where if you were playing at like half health, you couldn't summon anybody. Oh man, it was probably the most punishing. The level layouts were the worst.
Yeah,
they
one was amazing.
Poorly right. Yeah, and so they did a really good job with that. Path of Exile, DS3 was pretty good with that as well. Dark Souls 1 was probably the best in terms of level layout for the whole game. Not in terms of fast travel, though. Like, you know, they add some really cool stuff. So it's like a weird combo where there wasn't one that's better than the other.
It was painfully punishing if you didn't get certain shortcuts. DS1.
Yeah, but I liked that.
I did too.
It forced you to explore, and like, I really, really need to find every corner of this map, because if I don't, like, holy crap, that's a lot to go back from. Yeah. Right? You find a site of grace or bonfire, and it's like heaven. It's like, oh man, I can't. My wife, like, she introduced me to role-playing games before I was just sports and like espionage stuff like Splinter Cell and Hitman. And when she introduced me to Fallout 3, it blew my mind, right? Like, just how the different attribute points work. That was my introduction to it. And so anyway, I've been off the rails since. But when I first started playing Dark Souls, that was because I saw you, Josh, and Nathan playing it at your place. And you were just like, yeah, Ty, come over and we'll play. And it was a single player game. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, we're just going to chill out and have some drinks. And you guys are playing some game that I've never played, and I didn't pick it, so I'm not going to like it. But then I see Josh or whoever's playing. Yeah, it was how
so
you opened a door. Yeah. That was it. So Aaron introduced me, my wife introduced me to role-playing games, and okay, cool. That's lit the fire for character building, right? And theory crafting. And I played an insane amount of Fallout 3 because of the different things you could do in the game. But then as soon as I saw, well, I'll say it's Josh opening the doors. Yeah. And it was just the doors at the beginning. Just the doors at the beginning, where there's that boss that you're not even supposed to fight until later in the tutorial. And then you push other doors open so that you can get to the crow. Pushing these massive doors that are 10 times bigger than the character open. And it's like,
so you can
5
feel the
really
force.
Strong. Yes. I was like,
so good.
Oh, I no joke. I bought the game very shortly after awesome. Because of how you opened the doors in that role-playing game.
That's so good.
But point is like when so I've played through the trilogy. I'm an Xbox player, so I didn't play Bloodborne or Demon Souls. I'm excited. I know that there's changes coming. I'm like, okay, sweet. They're making this new IP. It's going to be this. But then you start discovering, like, I had hopes and dreams for the fixes that I wanted Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 to have fixed. I wanted Elden Ring to be the perfect amalgamation of all those things. I didn't expect it to go from 20 bosses to 160. I didn't expect it to go from a closed, perfectly planned puzzle world to completely open world. Like, they just blew my mind with a bunch of stuff, but just like, I had expectations as a user. This is my point, going back to Path of Exile. I had hopes, dreams, and expectations for what I wanted. But if they listened to me, and if they insisted on listening to, let's say my opinions were the majority of the Dark Souls fan base, if they listened to me, Elden Ring wouldn't have happened. It would not have happened. And Elden Ring is by far the best From Software game that's existed, with the exception of being a Dark Souls 1 player when only Dark Souls 1 existed, right? Without Dark Souls 2, without Dark Souls 3. If you played Dark Souls 1 without any knowledge of any other From Software game, that's probably the best game. But being an experienced player in that world and then playing Elden Ring, they came up with stuff that I never would have thought of. And so much of what they did just completely changed. Like, so many issues that I had with the previous trilogy became irrelevant because of what they did with Elden Ring.
You actually bring up a great point that I didn't really think about, or maybe I hadn't clicked or as to why, but when we talk about PoE 2 and you just talked about this release of Elden Ring, for me, and I understand it's not the same for a lot of people, but I really enjoy going into a game knowing very little. And with Path of Exile 2, it's going to be very hard to go into it and not know way more than I want to know. Like, I like the experience of that new figuring things out. And I think the more that's been talked about, the more that the people are out and they're, it's not an appeasing thing. Like, I think they're just doing their job and they're making the game they want to make, and they're trying to like answer the questions that get asked. But for me, I want to just load up PoE 2 and just feel that newness and that excitement of something I haven't done before, versus I really don't want to go through PoE 2 thinking about all the things they've been talking about, or what should I be expecting, or how is this supposed to work? I don't really want that. I'm excited for that new feeling. So, and Elden Ring is a great example of that, where we came from playing these Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, for us, especially, there's that hype of, okay, they've got their new game coming out, but we didn't really know very much. And then all of a sudden you start to play, you're like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Like, it's amazing.
There was Dark Souls in it, but there was the future in it.
Until you open the door, just like their normal FromSoft amazing door, you open that door and you're like, where do I go?
Right. There's color in this world. Are you kidding me? It's not just gray.
I know. I'm going to take that gold guy. I'll kill him.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, man. But wasn't that perfect? Like, so good. So you take a completely from software thing, right? Dark Souls thing, and have this open world with color, and you have choices. And right off the bat, you put a boss that you can't do. Yeah. And right away you're like, okay, I know they kept Dark Souls in this new experience, right? Yeah. And
it took dying to realize that it was, this is FromSoft. I got to remember.
Maybe 30 times. And it's great. So, but that's the kind of thing. And some of the answers that Jonathan and Rishi came up with in this past Ziz interview, which was very good, Ziz, if you ever hear this, they said, like, you know what, actually, like, we're not trying to dismiss it. And we totally hear your complaint, but that's actually not going to be a relevant question for Path of Exile 2, because it's just that different. You know what I mean? Like, but that was cool. Like, there was a few answers, and those were referencing Endgame. So it was really interesting to catch up on all of this. The more I listen to, the more I'm very encouraged about Path of Exile 2, and the more that I hear Jonathan and whoever he chooses to come on with him speak, the more I hear that GGG is frustrated and annoyed and wish it didn't exist, the same things that drive you and me and the general community nuts. And so that kind of stuff's really exciting. Like, for example, they had one thing where they were talking about endgame bosses. That's something Ziz really likes. And he was talking about little things like, hey, listen, so right now when you're rolling invitations, you're rolling map mods to make the invitations harder. What about having something where you can re-roll an invitation that actually impacts the boss, right? So something like, the Maven puzzle lasts longer, or something like that, like boss specific mods. And so they were answering that question, but nobody's going to hear this, but Justin's already edited out about 1,000 violent coughs. And my poor microphone, it's got to be the most, like, I don't see anything. It looks nice and clean. I pick the fluff off on a regular basis so that it looks nice, but it's probably it's probably disgusting. It's probably worse than a hospital that's never clean.
Do you remember what you were saying? You said, but.
Well, they were talking about endgame bosses and stuff like, oh yeah. So anyway, they referenced, like, you know what? We've done the Mazel, like, I really like how they answer questions. Yes, they're long-winded, but like, Jonathan answers the direct question and the direct detail, but then he also just starts rambling about the mentality about it. And I love hearing both. So he was talking about like, yes, we've done, Rishi answers about mods specifically. And then Jonathan jumps in and is like, you know what? We've done the puzzle. We've done Maven. That was done. We're not going to do that again. And then he moves on. And in my head, I'm like, that's great. Like that's, the puzzle thing, it's gone. Like it's done. Like Path of Exile 2 is more interactive. Like you see puzzles in Path of Exile 2 and some of the demos that we've seen, like the one guy it's like a dungeon, I guess, but he has the chains, where you could like interact and shoot those spear things through the hole in the wall, and it helps to damage or, stabilize them or whatever it is. And, like maybe there's those kind of interactive puzzles are cool, but to hear him just quickly say before he goes into the mentality of boss specific mods, he's like, you know what, we've done like the puzzle thing and, okay, so that's done in Path of Exile. We're not going to bring that back. And I'm like, but then that's just quick and done. And like, I like catching and hearing those things, but that's exciting to me because, how many times have you and I said, we're not playing Path of Exile to play Divinity 1 or 2. Like we play Divinity to play Divinity. So, gotta keep them separated. Right? So not going to say who sang that though, because last time I quoted a band and a song and it wasn't that band that sang that song. So I'm just going to stick with keep them separated. I think it was Green Bay.
No, Green Bay is definitely not a.
No, is it Green? No, Green Day. Green Bay is the.
It definitely wasn't Green Day either. It was no. No,
I'm bringing it up. I'm gonna look it up.
Man, I can picture the guys. They're a bunch of like pretty fly for a white guy. What was it?
Gotta keep them separated. Offspring.
That's who it was.
Want to listen to it quick? Put this all on pause.
I don't want to. The one thing I will say, like with regards to what you're just talking about there, and how you like roll Maven invitations or boss things in the end. I do understand why people ask the questions. I do feel why they feel the need to answer some of these questions, but I still am caught in this weird spot of like, it's cool to know, but I would also be completely fine with not knowing and just learning and experience as we play the game. So like, I think there's some core, like high level things that are good for them to talk about, but getting to the nitty gritty of like, how do you roll maps and how is the end? I don't want to know. I want to play it. Let me go and find out.
There's no reason because they're probably going to change it because they're going to come up with a better idea. Like there's still so much they haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
There's still so much they haven't done in the game.
Beta, it's going to change too.
And there's going to be stuff that they come across where they're not going to think it interacts with this and this and this, but it's like, oh shoot, this actually, we really want to do this. But that's going to change this, this, and this. Yeah. And so, no, I hear you. There's only so much stock you can take in it, but I do love, as a super fan, I love hearing why things are a certain way with the games that I love. Mm-hmm. Granted, because I play so much Path of Exile. Now, I know I play very little Path of Exile compared to Path of Exile players, but with the time I have, it's almost always Path of Exile. But it is, I enjoy, like if I was to play Hitman, I like hearing why they chose these maps over these maps or these certain things for Splinter Cell, except Ubisoft is, to me, the same company who Ubisoft is Splinter Cell. They're just as bad as Electronic Arts in terms of quality and cash grabbing and crap. But so I'll never hear anything dev related about Sam Fisher. Sorry, my voice is going in and out, so I don't know what people hear, but Sam Fisher. Oh, that hurt. Okay. One thing I'm really excited about that is coming is that a lot of the fears and concerns that people have, like myself, one of the biggest fears I have still is how the filter system's going to work and drop rates. And they've said they're going to come out and talk to us about that another time, and that's great, fine. But Path of Exile 1 has the worst default filter in the world. And it makes zero sense. And I've said this many times, and I'm not going to hash on it, but it makes zero sense to me that a company who's called Grinding for Gear Games, which quote unquote means item weight, has the worst filter that could exist, which filters are the essence of item weight. They tell you what is and isn't valuable or could or couldn't be. And so when Path of Exile says they're adding 600 brand new base types to the game, and they're hoping you don't need a filter, I get nervous, right? So I have questions, And those questions are specific questions. Now, other people have other concerns. Well, how's endgame going to work? You said, like, I'm always in endgame. You've said that endgame's changing. I'm nervous about this. So they have specific questions. And so that's when they start asking questions about the specifics that aren't important. Just like me, item drop rates and all that kind of stuff could change 100,000 times before the game comes out. But it's still something I'm very concerned about. And I want to be appeased by it so that I can get over that and then be able to be excited until the release instead. So, like, I don't have the same concerns that other people do, but I get where they're coming from as a result of that. And I'm very thankful that they're willing to, in my opinion, waste their time answering questions that could easily change. Granted, it's great marketing within the Path of Exile community. Like, new players aren't watching this. People that are excited for Path of Exile 2 and have never played Path of Exile 1, they're not going to be watching these interviews. These are only for us. Right? I don't know, what would you say, 100,000 faithful?
Yeah, I have no idea.
They'll get like 300,000 on a league launch, but then that number drops off. So let's, cut that into a third, the 100,000 faithful that are always thinking about the game.
I hope in 10 years, when Path of Exile 3 comes out, they tell us 2 months before it comes out. 4 years was too much of a lead up.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't, COVID comes into play, but right. I still think even if you took COVID out, we'd be in the same boat as what we're in now.
Well, yeah, that's their marketing strategy. They announce things as soon as it comes into their head and they've agreed upon it. They don't have the same strategy that a lot of other marketing firms do in regards to the timeline and overhype and stuff like that. One thing I am still concerned about, though, is their time management. They're still the same company, and Path of Exile 1 got way ahead of them. And Path of Exile 2 is being made because of technological improvements, and Path of Exile 1, they're stuck with the technology restrictions of Path of Exile 1. So making Path of Exile 2 makes sense, but they haven't shown ample time management abilities yet. You know what I mean? So no. I'm really hoping, and the only thing I can do is hope, because there's no proof in this. And it comes down to the same things I've harped on, which I'll make quick, but Path of Exile 1 started with not needing a filter outside of the default filter. A couple years later, it became a need to have more effort put into their default filter, and it wasn't. And now we're 10 years later, and it's an absolute joke. And that should not happen for a company that's making a game like this. You have a gem that's as severe with massive consequences like Animate Guardian, and nowhere within the game does it tell you that you actually lose those items permanently, which isn't even a mechanic that exists outside of that gem. So for them, in 10 years, that hasn't been looked at. So whatever their process is and their system is of going back and making sure that everything's okay, even just having one person whose crappy job it is to go back every league and make sure that all the gems are they don't have anything like that. There's no allocation to that kind of time management and resources. Because that doesn't exist, it makes me nervous that no matter what they choose for Path of Exile 2, 2 years down the road, that's nice about those dev choices. Where's the financial backup to keep it up? So I'm just hoping, for example, let's throw marriage into it or something. I'm sorry, hun. I promise I won't do that again. All you got to do is hope that the person's actually going to start changing. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at with Path of Exile and GGG. They're having to change their time management and resource allocation at the same time that they're changing. There's no history of them proving themselves with it. So that's the only thing that makes me nervous. Outside of that, they've really quelled all of my nervousness and hesitations towards the game. So I didn't mean to make this a Path of Exile 2 episode. I know that's not your thing right now. And so
this was a fine version of conversation about it.
Sure. But I did just finish up all those things. So I wanted to kind of pass it on that, I think you're going to be impressed. Whether you agree or disagree with the decisions that they make, I can encourage you with the fact that they've thought about it. They thought about it. They made their decision. And like you say, hopefully they made the decision they want, not the decision we want. I think they're making the decisions that we want, which...
Well, and who knows if they actually are, though. They could just be saying some of that stuff to appease people.
Sure.
Without seeing.
And sometimes it might not matter. If they can't decide, may as well go with what the user wants. But if they really want something, I'm with you. I really hope they pick that.
I think in the end they probably will, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Just around the river bend, Just. It's already February.
Mm-hmm.
Do you say February or February?
February. I don't say the R.
Me neither.
Yeah,
and when I say the R, it screws Google up when I'm voice typing.
My daughter was just trying to spell that actually yesterday. She's 6. And so she was asking Google how to say it. And then she was like, she kept yelling the word back at it because she's like, Dad, why is it saying R? Like, yeah,
right.
there is an R.
Who the heck put a second R in February?
Yeah.
It only needs a second one, not the first one. Anyway, so thank you for your patience, Justin. But I hope, I'm glad that you emphasized to everyone listening. I know that you're really excited for Path of Exile too.
Yeah.
There's just no reason to talk about it now, with the exception of every single time I want to talk about it.
The odd thing, I just don't want to get into the details. I'm not into the nitty gritty. It's not for me.
Hey, Just.
Yeah.
How was your Path of Exile week?
I'm going to super fast this one. I did play this week.
I'm going to super fast
this one. Watch me super fast this. Wow. I did play this week. And what did I do? I just did some more magic finding. I was playing my chieftain. I did swap my chieftain a little bit away from the fulcrum. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. I wanted to go more push quantity higher, like just for the magic find fun side of it. But what I do miss is I am still, I am now dying the odd time. And the fulcrum build, when I was fully set up with the fulcrum setup, I never died. So,
but you're 100, right?
I'm 100, so it doesn't.
All it is
matter.
is irritation.
Just frustration, yeah.
Okay.
The frustration and trying to get back in to get the loot or whatever. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that regard, but I did gave Josh a bunch of currency for him to build out a build that he was working on. And then I'm just going to bring up one thing because I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about that they made one of the patches recently made it so that enemies despawn once the portal comes up, right? In the Wildwood. So when the portal comes up to leave the Wildwood, now the enemies despawn.
Yeah.
Supposed to be the enemies in the dark is what I understand, because I've definitely, most of the enemies that I've passed still stay alive. So Josh and I are playing it, and he has a quest with whatever one he's trying to rank up where he has to kill the King in the Mist, but not in the stronghold. It's the King in the Mist that pops up randomly in one of the events. So you got to, for some reason, it drops a ritual vessel.
That's a thing that you
he told me
have
it is
to do.
I didn't know that.
Is he doing challenges?
No, I think it's just one of his quests for the one of the 3. But he could be wrong.
He's just made it up in his head.
It's very possible.
He doesn't even know what ascendancy he is, but he's aware of his quests.
Yeah, apparently.
Right.
But anyway, we're fighting that boss, and I mentioned in a previous podcast that I hate fighting that boss because he goes into the dark when you're fighting him, and then I have to waste my wisps to find him, or to my whatever you want to call it. My timer gets used up by trying to chase him down because he jumps away from his little center point and goes into the dark. We were fighting him sometime this week. He despawns when the portal opens. He just
what?
Full on despawned after
even
the
if he's
portal
in
opened.
the light.
He was half health.
But he was like in the light. He wasn't in the dark.
No, he was half health. He had moved into the dark.
Oh, because he's a hopper, right? And
so I had said to Josh, well, I don't want to use up the little bit we have left. So why don't I just go and quickly grab some, finish this trail a little bit. So I go and finish the trail. He stayed down there.
Right. But the game doesn't tell you that you're close to your end, right? It's not like Delve where it shows, right?
So as soon as the teleport thing pops up, he disappeared. And I was like, he was half health. We were fighting him. It's not our fault that he moved. Anyway, it's a really dumb mechanic that he moves into the dark because you're trying to stretch that as far as you can to get as many wisps as you can. But that was a mechanic that really pissed me off this week. I was like, that's stupid. I don't know if he actually needs to do that quest because I'm pretty sure I've done all 3 of the ascendancies all the way to the top, and I don't remember ever having that one. So maybe he actually needs to do the stronghold version of the King in the Mist. He told me it's not, but what am I doing listening to Josh? You know?
Idiot.
I did have a good time playing this week, though. I spent a bunch of currency, switched up my build a little bit. I had another headhunter drop, so I went and double corrupted it and completely wrecked it. What else?
Fun to do, right?
It's been a really fun league to just play around with stuff.
Right, exactly.
Never do that kind of stuff.
And that's what leagues are for. I hope people remember, it's temporary content. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's weak, sometimes it's about story, sometimes it's about stuff. We have like insane currency this league. And so like what a great hey, so remember how we did at the beginning of this league, maybe it was last league, where you and I and After Dark were rating all the leagues? Mm-hmm. And like which ones did we think was an S or an A or whatever? Well, I mean, let's say we do that again in a few leagues, right? Just before, let's say we know when Path of Exile 2 is coming out. Oh yeah, we got to do that, man. Last league of Path of Exile 1 that we're going to play, we got to review.
All of them.
Excuse me. Yeah, we'll do another review of everything. And sorry, that was one of those old man backwards hiccups.
Yeah, I heard it.
Where it's like, I remember when my dad
used to hear it. I just saw it.
Right. Yeah, I know. It tasted gross too. But anyway, like, so we'll go back and we'll review, and Affliction will be like, man, that was the league where I got multiple headhunters and I could start corrupting them. And I didn't even care when I screwed them up. Like, how cool is that? That's what leagues are for, man. It's like some of the leagues are for that. Some of the leagues aren't. This league, it's about the lettuce, man.
Yeah, it's just been a fun league to keep me playing and trying different things and trying different items out and not caring about the fact that, wow, that's really expensive. Because I was laughing at Josh. Every single time we do a set of maps, I run them in sets of 4. So we usually do whatever. But every single time I get to a point where I'm like, okay, we've done like a half, we played for an evening or something. So maybe we did like 8 or 12 maps. Every single time I look back into my currency set, I'm back up well over however many divines I started and spent. Yeah. Like there's always multiple hundreds sitting in there. And I'm like, well, what do I try now? Like, I'm not going to try a new build. I would love to. There's some really cool ideas out there that people are doing. I'm not going to level up another character. Yeah. So, but
that was one of the things that Rishi and Jonathan were talking about with Ziz was the respecs.
I don't necessarily need respecs. I think that there's
just like they were like talking about that whole thing, like whether you're like skipping the campaign, the value of orbs of regret, if that availability of respecs or free respecs should be available during the campaign before maps or not, and all that kind of stuff. Like it's been a topic of conversation for the last 2. I think DM and Gazzy also brought it up as well. And it's just been an interesting point of conversation.
My feeling is you should get a free respec at the point of killing Kitava.
Both Kitavas or the first one?
Just the last one. I think, I actually don't care if it would be either of them. I do think it should never, ever be an ongoing thing that when I'm into the 90s and doing endgame content, that there should be a button to just like reset my skills. Don't think that at all. Because I actually think Orb of Regrets are a pretty fair drop rate. The ability to purchase them, even in solo self-found, like I think it's in a fair spot for that. But I do think that the game, I don't know what their plan is for PoE 2. If they were better at making you understand the decisions you were making, or at least gave some direction to a player for the decisions that they were making, then I think you can fairly say no respecs at all. But I don't think they've done a good enough job of explaining the concept of your decisions, the things that you're choosing, that they are very difficult to change later on. 22 respec points or whatever it is not enough for a new player who's been like, oh, cool, look at that. I want, you know what I mean? So,
right. Their rebuff to that is they think they're completely open to checking out how everything works and things. And they're obviously going to do like blind tests. They're going to pull people off the street, get them to play their game, and then they'll ask them a bunch of questions and watch how they play. But one thing that they're really going to emphasize is the knowledge of a new user, to know what it is they're selecting. So like, let's say you're hovering over int. Well, it's not just going to say +10 int. It's actually going to tell you what int does, right? Or if you have certain skills allocated, they're considering, okay, well, does this actually work for your skill or not? And then they referenced my point of spell damage impacting minions. If you improve your spell damage, this does or does not improve your allocated skills that you currently have. And that encourages knowledge, which means maybe you don't need as many respec points or free respecs or whatever it is. So they're playing with the whole concept. But again, like another example of they hear us, they totally get it. whether or not they're going to allow us to skip the campaign or not is something different. And I highly doubt they will, because I think this campaign has cost them like $30 million.
Yeah, I don't think they ever will. They seem pretty set on that fact. But I do see the value of allowing somebody to respec once they finish the campaign or something, especially now that we're going into a version of the game where supports are going to be just drop only. Yeah. And supports are going to change up how the skill acts, which could change how you would build out your tree. Like, I feel like the learning experience of going through the acts and trying to figure out the tree shouldn't be so painfully like you're just screwed if you get to the end and you realize that you maybe did something wrong, and now you're having to try and find a way to earn the currency in order to fix what maybe you shouldn't have done. I don't see the downside to giving a single respec. I also think you would make the leveling process of an alt better. If I knew that, okay, I can take this marauder and go, I mean, granted, it's different right now, but whatever you were playing, if you were going like a hollow palm style, or maybe there's these new ones where you're using mana forged arrows, but I could plan my tree out to push to the right side to get all of the bonuses to projectiles and to all of that kind of stuff, knowing full well that when I kill Act 10 Kitava, now I can try and transfer into my actual planned out build.
You could
That's
level,
not a bad thing.
And so you'd be fine having a free respec, and then which would encourage, this is my leveling build,
right?
And now I'm doing something completely different from that.
Which, keep in mind, that's not really going to happen until you're talking like a second, third onward character. Like your first character wouldn't make sense to probably do that.
That's true. That's a good point.
But you certainly could. I don't actually understand the downside to one free respec when you finish Act 10, especially in a game that currently does a terrible job of explaining what the choices are that you're making. So anyway, that's how my week was. I think we're going to wrap this one up.
I'm not meaning to lose all my lungs.
I need to keep them alive for After Dark. And also, Notepad doesn't go further down. I've hit the max.
Yeah, okay. That's right. Yeah, Notepad has restrictions on its length and width.
Uh-huh. All right, let's wrap this up. Forever Exiled 226. I'm Justin, AK Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
If you want to join the private league, make sure you hop on our Discord. Patrons will catch you in After Dark. Don't forget to check out our Discord regarding our upcoming conversations. And what do we got? Patrons After Dark. Next week, everybody else is seeing 227. If you're looking for more information, you'll find down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a very fun Discord. Come in and say hi. Patrons, other ways to support the podcast, find them down below, as well as the website. Sayonara.
I couldn't think of anything. That Sayonara was great. Good for you.